Okay, so today we're going to do fangs for the Tevo Tornado, and we're going to be printing them on the Ender 2, and we're going to be printing them in PLA, and we're going to be slicing it with Ideamaker. I didn't save the file somewhere else. I actually left it in the zip file. So it's the Petsfang for the CR10, Tevo, Tornado, and Tarantula. It'll actually also work on the Ender 2 and 3. So it depends on which file that you grab out of here. I downloaded this off of Thingiverse. It's the Petsfang V2. And I'm already running one on the Tevo right now. I just did it. I printed it out like real quick, like just to see if it was something that I even liked, and I really did like it. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a nicer print of it this time. Tevo base 5.8, okay, in the file, and then you're just gonna click on that guy, and it's gonna bring it up in Ideamaker because that's the slicer I have on my computer, the only slicer I have on my computer, so it brings it up in that. You can also set to bring it up in Mesh Mixer if you like, and then set your own name to it, however you want to file it. But this is how I'm doing it for now. So then I'm just going to click Move. I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to slide him forward right to the front of the build plate, and then once I've got that, then I'm going to come over to Add, click Add, and I've actually got this guy here and it brings it in. The reason why I'm using this one is because this actually takes the stock parts blower fan and just moves it right up on top right here, which I actually kind of like that setup. You can set it up to run a 50-15 blower fan if you like. The stock one actually works really well, so I'm just using the stock one. But then again, here we go. We got a warning for this model, so you just click Repair, Auto Repair. Why is this being glitchy on me? There we go. Come on. And then something that I always suggest for guys when they're moving stuff around on their build plate is you can always come over here, click on platform in Ideamaker. It's a good idea anytime you move something because it might move it up away from the bed a little bit. So just make sure that you click on platform. And then if you're bringing in files from Mesh Mixer, I found that sometimes get some weird orientations depending on the file. Most of the time I've had issues with the files that I'm downloading from Thingiverse and then come up in Mesh Mixer and then drop them into Ideamaker. There's something that goes on there sometimes. So what I suggest to do is just come around here and just hit the view so that you know that you're not going to move anything around, and then just come in here and get real nice and tight and make sure that it is actually sitting on the bed. So let's speed this up a little bit, and we'll go in here and slice this guy. Now you're going to have in Ideamaker, you're going to have templates, and the template that I'm running is just based off of one of their settings. I've actually brought in, set up my Ender 2 in Ideamaker, and then you click Edit, come into Advanced, or you can just, if you've already got all your advanced stuff set up, just you're good to go usually. But you come into Advanced, you have your first layer settings. And this is what I'm running for my Ender 2, and my nephew is actually also running this pretty much the same profile for his Creality CR10, and it works really, really well. 90% of the time with this setup, I click print and I pretty much walk away from the printer. I do stay for the first layer just to make sure that there's no chunks or anything that gets caught up in it and it is actually sticking good. Other than that, I set it and forget it. So on this print here, I'm going to run it at 0.12, 4 shells. Then my first layer is actually 0.24. You can go a little bit thicker if you think you need it. I don't ever see that a 0.24. I've seen guys run as much as 0.30 on their first layer, and I just don't see that it's necessary. If you have your bed leveled correctly, you don't need to do that. I do run my first layer a little bit slower. I run it at 30 and then a little bit extra flow just to squish it down into the bed a little bit and get it good and stuck. Default speeds, all that, I don't really mess with any of that. Where I do mess with it is this is, of course, the Ender 2 is a Bowden style, so retraction speed, I run my retraction speed at 60 mils a second, and I'm actually retracting by quite a bit. I retract 5.8 mils at this point because I was still getting little globs right on the end of my retraction at 5.5. So I bumped it up just a little bit, and we're gonna check that and make sure that's running good now. Another thing that I mess with in here, and these are the only things that I mess with here, is this one, and then I come down here and I throw in a 0.25 Z-hop at retraction. Okay, and basically what that does is when it retracts, it's just going to lift the nozzle just a little bit, just kind of to get rid of it helps to get rid of the glob right there when it retracts. Infill, I'm running this one on a cubic infill at about 20%, and normally I run about 10% because I'm running 4 shells, and most of my stuff is just like R&D type stuff, fitment stuff like that. This one I bumped up a little bit on the infill, just because I wanted just a little more strength to it. The cubic seems to print pretty fast. I've been pretty happy with it. I did a little bit of messing around with the honeycomb, and I didn't like the amount of time that it took to print. The honeycomb seems to take quite a bit more time than the cubic to print, and the cubic seems to be just as strong. So there's a couple of videos out there of guys doing tests to figure out which one of these is strongest, but mainly I'm using it because it seems to be a pretty stout infill pattern, and it also prints fast. I've got my flow rate on my infill bumped up just a little bit. I run it right around 50 mils per second, and that seems to be working pretty good for me. So you can give that a shot if you like. Ideamaker is a great program. It has tons of options. Fill layer, I'm running 4 shells. Same with the top fill layer. Bottom solid fill, 50 mils a second. Top fill, that's going to give you, by slowing that down just a little bit, it's going to give you a little bit better look on your top fill. And then also I bump up the flow rate just a little bit on the top over the bottom, just to give me that nice squish, and it seems to look really nice when I do that. So that's how I've ran that. Then of course you got all your platform skirts. I run a skirt. I usually run the skirt 2.5 off the model. I run 3 lines just to make sure that it gets rid of all the goo on the end of the extruder nozzle. I was running 2 lines, and it seemed like every once in a while I'd get a little chunk stuck in there, and just depending on the PLA that I was using, and so I bumped it up to 3, and I haven't had any issues with it so far. Then you got your cooling. Cooling is basically you got different fan settings, all that in here. It's going to give, that's where your heat bed temperature and your primary extruder temperature is going to be. I'm running 205 with a 60. So what I do when I run PLA is, since you don't technically need a heated bed anyway, I started out at 60 degrees. At layer 20 it's going to kick down to 55, and then at layer 50 it's going to kick down to 40. Now I've ran it before with basically going 10 or 12 layers and then just kicking the bed off altogether, and it works just fine. I just keep a little bit of heat to it just so that I've heard that layer adhesion is a little bit better if you do keep a little residual heat around the part if you can. So that's why I've kicked it down to 40 and just let it run there. And then of course, you know, it's just wear and tear on your printer to run that as hot as you think you need to. Like I said, PLA, you don't have to have a heated bed at all. So you can run without it. You can set up your bed temperature settings. You can also do that on your extruder. So different layers, on different layers, you can actually set it up to where you can check, you can do a temperature tower, and you can set the temperatures at different points of the model to show you exactly where the best temperature for that PLA is. So you can do that with this software, that's actually pretty new and pretty cool. I haven't messed with it. I know about where my PLA likes to run, and that's how I run it. So then once you're all done messing around in here and screwing everything up, just hit OK, and then come down and save and close. Make sure that these are correct. Those are save and close, and then click slice. And this software is actually pretty fast, so it's good size models, and it sliced it pretty quick. So it's looking like it's going to take about 10.5 hours. And I don't have any of my pricing set for the actual PLA that I run, so this is just kind of a guesstimate. For what I'm doing, it doesn't really matter. If you need to know exactly how much it's going to cost you to print something, then you're going to have to go in and figure out, break down exactly how much, and you can do that. You can break down how much you paid for your PLA or paid for your filament, and it'll calculate it out for you. Then you're going to go into preview. If you like, you don't have to go into preview. On some models I don't. And then what's nice here is you can go in and you can go by extruder color, which lets you know whether, if you're running a dual extruder, it'll tell you which one's printing what. And in this one, in structure, it's going to tell you, it'll give you a list of all the structures. So every color identifies to a structure. And so you've got your infill is going to be yellow, solid fill is orange, bridge is red, inner shells are green, outer shells are kind of a maroon color, supports are going to be blue. We don't have any supports here. Your skirt's going to be purple, raft, not running a raft, wipe wall, on and on and on. Okay, so here, if you just click to the first layer, you can get a good idea of how this is actually going to lay out, and also it'll give you a good indication of whether your model's actually sitting firmly on the bed or not. So you can see it's starting the first layer of the infill, and then we're just going to just keep running it up and make sure that there's no issues, which I've already printed this, so that I know there's no issues printing it without any supports, and it prints pretty well. So that just kind of gives you an idea of what this is going to look like. And it's kind of nice because it gives you this quick little ticker over here. It shows you what layer you're at and how many millimeters tall it is at that point. Okay, so that's kind of cool too. And then another one that you can do over here too is speed. So this shows you how fast you're printing what parts of this. Okay, I normally print between 30 and 50 mils per second, so that's why all of my parts are this color. Once you're done messing around here and you're happy with this, you can close out of that. Brings this screen back up here. You're going to click export, and then we're just going to, let's rename this for Tevo Pets. How about that? That works. Make sure that you're saving it to your SD card or micro SD card at this point, and then it's done. And then once you've done that, you're pretty much done. So now you can just pop out your card and you're good to go.